There was he, the plague of us all, the cause of our misery. He thrived not on our friendship, but on our conflict. Unwittingly he brought us all together, but now with him gone, we are all the better. He was a loser, in a stupid hat.
Grooveless, Act 1.
You remembered.
How can I not, when you've beaten it into my head?
Grooveless, a tale of souls and swords, eternally retold. I think my brain's a bit scrambled, that's something else. Grooveless is a tale that is retold, though not eternally. But the interesting thing about it is that every time it's retold, it's from a fresh new perspective. It's told from a different person, from a different angle, and usually there's even a little bit of information that was not realized in someone else's version of the story. Though it's always the same story, there's always something a little bit new for you to see there. And this time I'm going to try and offer you my point of view on the whole thing. I think I'll just do like a few of you guys did, just kind of go back to the very beginning. Maybe not even being wholly on topic the whole time, but just kind of try to recount things as best as I can and add my thoughts along the way so that you guys can know them, because it's something that I kept quiet about for the longest time, and I think even when I felt okay and comfortable talking about it, I still didn't really say everything, you know? So going back to the beginning, I didn't have a channel on YouTube yet, didn't know about Let's Plays yet, and the way I found them was actually, I happened to randomly stumble across a video that was interesting to me, something that I still do every once in a while today, and that video was a video of Proton Johns. It was, I think, like Kaizo Mario World special stage, and I just found it absolutely hilarious. I think maybe I sort of identified with it in a way, because, I mean, granted, he was getting frustrated because he was playing a super frustrating, ridiculous hack, but it sort of reminded me of how much trouble I used to have with games when I was first starting out. I've gotten much better now, but I used to be so terrible at games it wasn't even funny. It was like watching someone play a Kaizo hack, even though I was just playing normal games. So I think that helped me get a great bit of amusement out of that video, and later, I decided to go back, because I had enjoyed it so much, and just look at what else he had done. And I was enjoying those too, and I found myself ultimately watching every video he had done, catching up to where he was, helped by the fact that he didn't update terribly often too. But, yeah, and then I started following him. Every time he had a new video, I would watch it, you know, and etc. And he was my introduction to Let's Plays. At the time, I didn't actually go around looking for any other types of Let's Play to watch, though. I just followed his stuff. And eventually he did a hack called Super Mario World TKO, which was a very interesting one because it seemed to focus, like all hacks, it does make things more difficult than, you know, in the original game, especially in some stages. But with that hack in particular, it seemed to, often enough, except for certain optional stages, be still reasonable, usually, you know, in its difficulty. It wasn't setting out to give you an overly frustrating, ridiculous experience. It was setting out to give you a new experience. And that was something that had been unseen in a lot of hacks, really, but especially in the ones he was doing, so it really interested me. I wanted to see more of it, and that was round about the time he stopped updating altogether for a really long time. And so that kind of sucked, but fortunately, he had asked, well, I should say, he basically invited any of his subscribers to sort of play along with him, go download the hack themselves, and like do their own let's play of it alongside his kind of thing. And they caught up, and some people quickly caught up and went past what he had done, and even finished the thing. So I was so interested in seeing more of it that I decided when I finally lost my patience, it seemed like he wasn't going to get around to it anytime soon, and indeed, he still hasn't finished that. But I lost my patience finally and decided to watch someone else's videos of it. And at the time, I remember I think I think I might have been more harsh about that sort of thing at the time too. But I'm not. I don't know. All I know is, at the time, I remember the other Let's Players playing along not being very good to me. It wasn't that. It was not enjoyable to really watch them, to the point that I only found one Let's Player who was doing it at the time, again, that I could stand to watch. It wasn't that I found him, really entertaining and really great, but he was tolerable. And that was Jason. And as I watched him play Super Mario World TKO, I started to, enjoy his commentary a little more. I kind of opened up to it a bit more. He wasn't extremely funny all the time, and he wasn't, really upbeat and energetic at all, but I don't know, he was just kind of calm, and not knowing him at the time, especially, just something kind of, I guess, relaxing about the calmness of the way he did it. It was very different from anything Proton John had done, and it kind of was responsible for opening me up, I think, to other, like, very, very different approaches and stuff, and also kind of, in perhaps the meanest possible way of putting it, his Let's Play was, his LPs in general, because, yeah, I'm getting off topic and scattered here. I should follow one line of thought. I watched him play. Yeah, I'll work towards the other ones. This is what I get for not making a script. Yeah, so I watched Jason LP Super Mario World TKO. As I explained, I started to get more into his commentary as it went on, such that by the end of the thing, I decided I liked him enough to check out more of his stuff too, and so I ended up doing that. I checked out some more of his stuff here and there, and ended up deciding ultimately that I liked him enough to follow him too. And again, in perhaps the meanest possible way of putting it, it's kind of like his LPs were so different from Proton John's, and in a way kind of less quality, less professional, I guess, to the point that it helped inspire me to do Let's Plays too, because kind of like it made me realize that it doesn't have to be super amazing to be enjoyable, I guess. What a great honor to have been that inspiration, huh? But yeah, that's kind of, I think, how I got inspired, a little less nervous about the idea, ultimately, and it was a long while before I actually did my first one, though. But, yeah, anyway, I started following him, too, and then he joined County Line Gaming. And so it really was through him and because of him that I found County Line Gaming as well, and that's something that I can be sort of thankful for. I can't really say for sure if I ever would have found County Line Gaming were it not for him, and even if I had, I might not have done so under the same circumstances. I might not have been able to get to know you guys and connect with you and whatnot. I mean, not that I have done so tremendously, being the quiet guy that I am, but still, the fact remains that we all consider each other friends. You consider me a friend, and I consider all of you a friend, and we have a lot of mutual respect for each other. And I don't know if we would have reached that point necessarily had I not found you guys through Jason. That's one thing about him I can be thankful for. Something that he did not do directly himself, but that he played a part in. So yeah, because he joined County Line Gaming, I went over there to watch his videos, and then decided to check out some of the other members' stuff, because why not, you know? So I ended up following some of you other guys' stuff, too. And, that's kind of all the, how I got into... Yeah, eventually, I started doing my, Professor Layton thing. That didn't involve talking at all, but it was still videos of a video game. And then, after I did that, I did my first Let's Play, Mega Man X RPG Chapter 1. Oh, and I forgot, that was another thing, too. My recording setup for that LP, I also got from Jason, so it's kind of like my first LP. Yeah, I really figured out how to record from him. I pretty much followed his video of what he did to record, almost to the letter, pretty much. That's how I got my setup. And it worked out pretty well for that LP. It had a lot more quality than a lot of people's first LPs did. Though, to be fair, it's not like it was my first video. The thing is, I made sure it was good before I felt okay putting it out. I mean, I think that was actually take 2 of that LP. I don't know if I ever told anyone that. Yeah, there was a take 1 of that LP that got totally scrapped. And, of course, you know, I messed around with making videos and stuff long before I ever had a YouTube account, and I just, you know, never put any of them up. I actually still have a camera playthrough of Kirby Superstar Ultra that I think I still have that sitting on an external hard drive. I never uploaded it because the quality was not very great. But anyway, yeah, back on topic. That explains how I got into Let's Playing. That explains how I found all you guys. That explains how I found Jason. And that pretty much covers the extent of the positives, I think. But onto the negatives. You know, it should have been a red flag to me that, like, I think the first time I ever came out and commented on one of Jason's videos, like, I think it had been, I'm not sure if I had actually played Mega Man 2. No, yeah, I had played Mega Man 2. I guess it had just been so long since I played it, and I had only played it once ever, so I wasn't really that familiar with it, and I guess I didn't know the mechanics of the game very well, what jumps are makeable, what aren't, etc. And I think I remember commenting on one of his videos, I was like, you know, is that E-Tank even possible to get without one of the items? Like, you know, by items, like one of the, like the jet or the platforms or whatever. And the way he responded seemed kind of like he didn't seem mad about it, but the way he worded it seemed like he took offense to it, like you know, just, yeah, he's not doing it in the proper order or whatever sort of thing. And I feel like that should have been a red flag to me, because it's like, I was not in the least bit implying that, and he just got, like, seemingly offended over it, and whatever, just seems kind of ridiculous. But, I just figured, you know, maybe he was having an off day, or maybe people criticize him a lot about that sort of thing, so it's easy to assume. I just kind of I tried to clear the air and kind of say, oh, I wasn't trying to imply that. I don't do it in a very proper order myself. Blah blah blah. I don't like blah blah blah. And yeah, that was that. He responded again saying something. Didn't really. He didn't really. I don't know. It's kind of like not an apology for the misunderstanding. Not that I expected one by any means, but looking back on it now, it's kind of like. But he didn't even mention it. He just kind of. He said something, and I don't know. Kind of like didn't make you feel like any better for the misunderstanding, but I don't know. But I guess it was sort of fine. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. I suppose that could have been a red flag for me, perhaps, but benefit of the doubt. And then he started getting into drama on YouTube, as people have talked about. Just a lot of stupid shit, and he had half a point about some of the things he complained about, but the thing is, in some cases, actually, in a number of cases, really, it was really just a matter of pure taste and opinion. And he acted like it was something more than just opinion, And it just. He has no diplomacy. I think Apple commented about that one in his Grooveless video. Yeah, that Jason. I don't remember the way he put it, but it's spot on. Jason just has no diplomacy at all. He doesn't know how the hell to shut his mouth, and he doesn't know how to pull his punches. And I mean, to a ridiculous extent, because I mean. Sometimes you gotta say what needs to be said, yes, but not everything needs to be said all the time. And even when it does need to be said, there's no reason to say it in the most asshole-ish way possible. And that's what got a lot of the drama going, is that he would do that. He would just go and not like this video for whatever reason, like a tool-assisted speedrun, or a video of some guy fighting bosses in Swordcraft Story at minimum level or something, and it's stupid because of this, and blah blah blah, and just picking a fight, really, and being it shouldn't be a surprise that it evolved into something worse than just the comment that it went beyond that. It should come as no surprise. And he started it needlessly. He was always at the source of it, and it was usually not really totally necessary. And at the time, I was as blind to this as anyone. And I felt I didn't take his side, thankfully. I didn't really get involved in much of the drama myself, for the most part, but I did feel on his side, kinda, and I saw his side of things more than anyone else's. I was as blind as anyone in the beginning, but yeah, he really drew stuff in on him. He picked those fights usually, and that's something that would be a recurring theme later. He always seems to be the one to throw the first insult. But, I'll get to that. Anyway, eventually, stuff on YouTube... Actually, stuff on YouTube didn't really quiet down. Yeah, that's right. CLG pretty much, lost all of, their videos, and got their account taken down, and they got it back up. You guys got it back up, but, you had to upload... You were only able to upload what you had backed up, basically. And, again, as has been explained in, as has best been explained in a Mrs. video, this had a lot to do with Jason, too. Some animosity between Zell and the group, largely caused by Jason. I think Apple might have touched on that, too. my memory is a little fuzzy right now. It's been a while since I watched the videos, and my mind's not going 100% right now. Might not be the best time to be doing this, but oh well. But yeah, Jason just caused a lot of drama, needless to say, on YouTube and within the group. And, so then, County Line Gaming, later down the road, you guys got the site, and, things were good for a while. Oh wait, yeah, but it was around about that time the thing with, Quaddy happened, and for me, I was not in the group yet, so my perspective on that one with, between Jason and Quaddy, kinda a lot like Hyper's in that, I was totally in the dark and had nothing to go on, and pretty much from my perspective, I hadn't known anything was wrong, I think, until Quaddy posted that video, the dig in 5 seconds, and threw in the jab, the kind of lighthearted jab at Jason at the end. Sort of lighthearted. I mean, because he was pissed at Jason, sorta. He was starting to get fed up with Jason at the time, I think. But at the same time, the "I like turtles" thing was not exactly the most malicious thing he could have done. So But Jason obviously took it very seriously. And anyway, I hadn't known anything was wrong until that point. I think was my point. And yeah, until that time, I hadn't realized anything was wrong, and I even kind of tried to pass it off like, are they just kidding around? Question mark. But then it got a lot worse, and I was just confused because it seemed to have come from completely out of nowhere. From, since a lot of what happened behind closed doors in that case, just I didn't understand. And then, Jason started being the little bastard he was being, making the video about Quaddy's inactivity, like picking at Quaddy every single time he would post on the forums, etc. Yeah, I didn't get it. I excused it because he's mad, he's not thinking straight, kind of thing, I guess. But I just didn't understand how they came to that point to begin with. It just seemed so out of nowhere. And so ultimately, I never ended up really holding it against either one of them for even a second, really. I just felt bad that it happened that way, that it was too bad that they couldn't be friends anymore, and it sucked, because they had seemed so close before, and Quaddy had to leave the group, and it really sucked. And something that I also feel bad about is that I think it was after that point that, like, up till that point, I had actually been I'd been commenting on some of Quaddy's videos and stuff, and we had also, we didn't talk a lot, but we did talk a little bit. Like, we sent a couple private messages back and forth and that sort of thing, and we were getting along pretty good when we were talking, and I kind of stopped talking to him after that happened, because I don't know why, really. I mean, as I mentioned, I didn't hold any of it against him, really. But after that, I felt sheepish about talking to him. I think especially when I got invited into CLG too, I felt especially sheepish about talking to him, I guess, from the whole thing that went down. But it really started, I think even before I was invited, I think just after the fight. I feel kind of bad about that. Probably not a really big deal, but, still. But yeah, anyway, so that happened. And I think that was the last thing, at least that I can remember, or that I noticed happening. Yeah, keyword mainly being that I noticed. For a good long while. And then the next thing to happen was the argument between Amiss and him in the shout box. That kind of sparked a whole much bigger headache later, but that fight, suffice it to say, I was confused again. It seemed at this point I was in the group. Yeah, I had been invited into CLG. I accepted. I was in the group in Yay and all that, and was having a good time. But yeah, this happened, and again, even though I was part of the group, I guess a lot of it, you know, there was a lot I wasn't realizing, and even what I even what I did see, I didn't really see, and not everything was before my eyes in the first place to begin with. So yeah, but that fight, even then, kind of weirded me out because it just Jason seemed to be being so unreasonable, and he was also, as he always seems to be, as I've noticed since, he always seems to be the first one to throw a personal insult. You can be having a debate with him, you can be arguing with him, maybe a little bit annoyed, but being civil, being polite and professional for the most part, kind of thing. And he is always the first one to throw out a personal insult. It's something I've noticed that really started to bug me. But, yeah, he was the first one to throw an insult at Amiss. Amiss returned to the favor later in the conversation, but Jason did it first. And that whole thing, what pissed me off so much about that, well, confused me at first, later pissed me off, much later, but that fight sparked kind of from a bit of a thing over, like, Amiss's developing the Diablo 2 co-op page. Like, I think he had to make changes to it because there were so many episodes. He had to make changes to the design to have room for all the episodes, basically. And they kind of got into a little thing over it. They were getting annoyed with each other. And that kind of sparked what the argument actually ended up being about. And the thing that's so aggravating, though, is that even though that was just the spark and not what was really going on there, Jason always, every time afterward, said that that fight was about the Diablo 2 co-op page. Just because it makes Amiss look unreasonable. And that's not what it was about. That fight, what it really ended up being about, was how fed up Amiss was getting with Jason's nagging everyone for activity and the way he was talking to people and, just the things he was saying, the way he was acting, and just like he's putting out all this content, he's holding the place up. And I mean, I think I remember, like, at first he didn't even, like, he forgot to count Thera as being active, and Amiss called him out on that. And, like, he then kind of, like, conceded to that, and, in later times that he would talk about people's activity, he would mention that Thera was being active, at least. But, yeah, it's like I remember that fight, he kind of acted like he was the only one doing anything. And, that's what that fight was about. That's what was really getting on Amiss's nerves, was just him getting on everyone's case for their activity when it's supposed to be about fun. And that's something that ended up bothering me later, too. But yeah, that fight happened. Amiss apologized for it. Jason did not. Jason, just gave some kind of typical, like, oh, well, we can't always control our tempers. Whatever. It kind of like Amiss was forgiven, but Jason wasn't apologizing himself, at all. And then also throwing in a, like, but, I think he mentioned, to like, if something is a problem, bring it up to him, sort of thing, because like, whatever. Yeah, because bringing up problems to him that you have with him totally not gonna end badly at all. But anyway, so yeah, that fight passed over. Um, with the way Jason handled the aftermath of that, Miss didn't want to have much to do with him anymore, and I don't blame him. He blocked Jason on Skype, and this ended up being the source of a much greater headache much later, where Jason started coming after a Miss. And like a month later, this kind of turned into a thing of like Jason and Thera and Sation versus a Miss, because they were on his side. Jason did a lot to earn Thera and Sation's trust, and that's why none of us fault either of you guys for believing him. I mean, you want to believe your friends. It's hard not to. And he was your friend. And you did trust him, and he had done things to earn that trust at the time. He later broke that trust, unfortunately, but, at the time, you had good reason for believing him. But, anyway, yeah, he basically, he twists he would twist he would twist some facts, outright lie about some things, oh, it was about the Diablo 2 co-op page, blah blah blah, whatever. Who knows whatever else he might have said, but, basically he made out a Miss to be the bad guy, him to be the good guy, I'm sure. And so he turned the two on a Miss, and it just got real ugly real fast. And it turned into a Miss's departure, which was another really big, huge thing, because a Miss tried to do, as he mentioned, I believe, he kind of tried to do what he could to hopefully allow people to see what kind of person Jason really was. And unfortunately, though, it didn't work too well. Unfortunately, it just made a lot of people look at a Miss negatively. And to be honest, I didn't. I didn't agree with all the actions he was taking. I didn't agree with all the things he was saying to, a Miss and Thera and Jason. But, to himself? No, not to a Miss, not to himself. All the things he was saying to Thera, Sation, and Jason. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't approve of all the things he said. I didn't approve of all his actions, but I mean, at the same time, I saw his point of view on the whole thing, to be honest, at the time. I was kind of on his side about the thing, about the whole argument and whatever, and I just kind of confused, not angry, not upset with him, just confused. But also understanding, I mean, because, he was really aggravated by that point, and rightfully so. I can see, I could see kind of why he might be doing the things he was doing at the time. Even if I didn't wholly agree with them, But, yeah, he de-adminned everyone, you took the site hostage, whatever thing. And, another thing about that, I remember, Jason was like, I think, it seemed to me like I remember bringing up in a group conversation, I think I remember volunteering to, talk to a Miss about the whole thing. Basically about getting the passwords back and what have you. And, actually, was this even the first time he left? No, that was the second time, actually, I think. Yeah, that's right, okay. Yeah. When he first left, when he first, de-adminned everyone and this and that, he was thinking of taking the V-Bulletin license and whatever else. And, he ended up finally he readmined Hoodie, let him readmin everyone else, and he didn't take anything, he didn't do anything, and he finally just left. But then he was still hanging around on the forums as, a member, but as, should have been expected, things between him and Jason didn't go well enough for him to really be able to stay there and keep his mind. So, yeah, he ended up having to leave again, and he just it. I told you my mind is not at 100%, and a lot of this is just so mind-blowingly stupid, the stuff that Jason pulled and the arguments and all what have you. But anyway, I'll try to explain as best as I can from my perspective. Amiss kind of did the thing again. I think he once again de-admined everyone, I believe, and I know he changed the FTP password and just the FTP password, I think. Maybe the Green Geeks password too? I don't remember. But, yeah, and I remember, I don't remember how soon I brought it up, but I remember in a group chat on Skype, I brought up, talking to Amiss, get the password, see about getting the passwords back and whatever, blah, 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 and was, basically volunteering to talk to him myself, because I was the one, I had seen Amiss's side of things. I could kind of see where he was coming from, and, now, at the time, you have to understand, I was keeping quiet about how I really felt, and I was not the only one keeping quiet. And anyone else who kept quiet, I didn't know how they felt, really. I didn't know how they felt necessarily. All I know is that everyone who had a voice was on Jason's side. And so I didn't really trust anyone to talk to Amiss and have it stay reasonable and civil, which is why I volunteered to talk to him. And now I know that Apple could have done it too, but, that's neither here nor there, and it doesn't really, it doesn't matter who talked. It doesn't matter who talked to him. It's not a big. Well, I mean, it does and it doesn't. I don't know. Anyway, my point is that's the reason I volunteered, because if Thera or Sation, especially if Jason had gone to talk to him, I just could have seen that blowing up at the time, And so I went and talked to Amiss, and that's how we ended up getting. He was perfectly happy to give the passwords back. He had basically been really no more than trying to make a point that, if he really was so bad and really yeah, that's right. I think what set him off, I think Jason changed the FTP password or whatever, and he made a big point of mentioning this in public as a sort of thing that was so that just in case, Amiss can't, do anything sort of thing. And, Amiss took over the site, again, really for no more reason than to make a point that if he was really so destructive and wanted to destroy the site, he could have done so, and he was not going to do that. But of course, no one saw it that way. I think I tried to convey that point across too, but I don't know how well it was received. I know Jason just tried to write it off, whatever. But yeah, I talked to Amiss after our conversation. He later talked to Apple. He gave Apple the site, basically. The site was now in Apple's name and all that good stuff. We got the passwords back, etc. And Amiss left, which was sad, but it was really for the best at the time. It was really for the best for Amiss not to be around until Jason was gone, I think. But, the thing that baffled me the most, I remember, was that when I had volunteered to talk to Amiss, when I kind of brought the whole thing up, like, about talking to him, like it was, the most natural course of action in the world, which it pretty much was, it had, it came across to me like Jason had not been intending to even attempt to do that at all. He wasn't even going to try to talk to Amiss, and that just kind of baffled me. Like, what? And he was trying to, Jason, I remember, tried to set up a free forum or something for CLG and try to import all the stuff into it, and all the posts did successfully carry over, but not everything did carry over. And besides that, gotta be honest, I freaking hated that forum. It was so... The layout was just not as nice as V Bulletin's was. And it didn't have a shout box, and just... And the layout, and the themes, just... Ugh! I did not like that forum at all. If we had moved to it after all, I really don't know if I could have brought myself to be as active on the forums. Not that I'm the most talkative person anyway, but, it would have been even worse. And, that's why I was so insistent on buying a new V-Bulletin license. I think I paid for half of it because I just couldn't stand to go to that. No, I wanted to keep V-Bulletin, thank you very much. And the other forum, too, it would not have been integrated into the site anymore either, I don't believe, which would have been another negative thing. But, yeah, I wanted V-Bulletin. And, but yeah, that's the other thing, too. I mean, I don't know what Jason was planning to do. Did he mention about how, we had all our pages on hand anyway and stuff? I think he might have mentioned that. I don't really remember too clearly. I just remember it coming across to me like he had no intention of talking to Amiss and was just writing off the site as lost. And, I don't know what the hell we were going to do then. I mean, what, he was going to try and find new hosting or free hosting or what, something? I have no idea. But, yeah, I'm glad that didn't go that way. But, anyway, God, I've been talking for a long time already. I'm not good at being short and concise, am I? Because I'm not even done. But, anyway. I'm also saying that a lot. That whole thing between Amiss and Jason, at that point, I still thought of Jason as a good guy, even though I thought of Amiss as a good guy, and thought he was really in the right for the most part over the whole thing, which is why that was just really confusing. Because, I mean, it's like, they're both such good guys, how the hell did this happen? Because they're not both good guys. But anyway, yeah, so it was really confusing, but that was not what opened my eyes, but it was what caused me to take a good look at Jason from then on, to really pay more attention to how he was. And as things dragged on, I did not like what I was seeing. He started calling out everyone on their activity again, and, more strongly than he had been when Amiss was around. And he was getting increasingly worse and worse and worse about it, and it was starting to become a pretty big point of contention with me as well. Not only because he was doing it with me, in fact, more so because he was doing it with everyone else. It's a funny thing about me. A lot of the time, coming after me can turn into the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. But it's usually all on its own, coming after me is usually not going to get you really deep into trouble with me. It's going to be messing with other people that gets you into trouble more. And, unfortunately, Jason was doing both. Yay. But, yeah, it was starting to get on my nerves. It was starting to bug me, much like it had bugged a miss. And, but I kept quiet about it. And, yeah, I did not like what I was seeing in that respect. But that's far from the only thing. What really started to piss me off was that it wasn't enough for him to do that. He started, at some point, I remember, he started coming in the shot box and talking a lot. And that, in itself, is not a bad thing. What's a bad thing is that he was a freaking dick a lot. He came down on people for the most ridiculous things, usually for their taste in games, like, because they like a certain game, or because they like a certain series, or because they think it's acceptable to have ports. And these turned into the most ridiculous, stupid arguments in which everyone else was always being civil, and Jason was actually insulting them. And it was really pissing me off. It's like no one could have an opinion different from his without him jumping down their throat about it the moment he saw it, and it was really starting to piss me off, especially when he actually chased a couple people away from the forums doing that shit. One person in particular was someone who seemed like an okay enough guy, and he had mentioned, though, when he joined, that, basically something to the effect of how he had had problems kind of, getting burned around other communities in the past and was kind of leery of joining forums anymore, pretty much. But he was joining ours because we seemed like, such cool people, basically. Then enter Jason, ragging on him for, I guess, his taste in Metroid games or some shit, and doing this and he did this like several times, not so far apart in days, to the point that the guy just finally got fed up and didn't come around anymore. He never said he was leaving, but coincidentally, he never showed up after that, and I don't blame him either. And it was just pissing me off so much. Jason was being such a dick to everyone about something so stupid, so trivial, something that's so taste. It's personal fucking taste, for God's sake, man. Good lord. And then I remember, too, the thing with Aesir. Aesir came on our forums, he joined up and he was doing stuff. He was posting his Let's Plays, and he was a pretty cool dude, and then he did the one thing that I guess he felt bad about later, or at the very least he apologized for it later. But I mean, I really don't look at it as a big deal. I didn't even then, really. It was a little bit rash, a little bit out of line perhaps, but I found it more amusing than anything. And what really pissed me off was Jason's reaction to it, because now what Aesir did, as far as I can remember, like, he made a thread in Jason's forum, and the thread was basically about, it was very short and sweet, and basically, this asshole is the reason Amiss left, and I don't remember anything else he might have said, but yeah, but I remember that his message was pretty short and to the point, and I think he even linked this asshole to Jason's forum, so that if you clicked on it, you'd end up in Jason's forum, just to really drive the point home. And a bit rash, yes. I can definitely see, coming down on him for that to some extent, but I found it more amusing than anything. Though, to be fair, I was starting to really become disillusioned with Jason by that point anyway, but, still. What really got under my skin, though, was that because he had come after Jason personally like that, we had a very, very forgiving, scaling system. You get a warning. In a particularly egregious case, you get banned without warning, and you get it for like a day. And then next time you get a warning again, particularly egregious, you might get banned again without warning, but that time a little longer, but that time a little bit longer. Again, warning, again, ban, even longer. And the whole thing was designed to basically give people a number of chances, each time the punishment being a bit more severe, but always giving them a chance to come back and show that they can, not be, an asshole or whatever reason it was that we were banning them in the first place. We had this whole punishment scale. And Jason completely bypassed it, acted like it didn't exist, and banned Aesir permanently. And he didn't tell anyone, as far as I know, that he had banned him permanently. I don't know if anyone else knew that he was banned permanently. I checked, I got curious, I looked in the admin control panel, saw that it was a permanent ban, got very annoyed, and ultimately didn't speak my mind about it, but that never sat right with me. I never agreed with that punishment. I mean, as much as I really just got amusement from the whole thing, I could definitely, in all fairness, have seen, maybe banning Aesir for a day or whatever. But no, he freaking banned him permanently, and that pissed me off. And then, to add insult to injury, while he wasn't there to defend himself, basically, Jason tried to make out like, oh, maybe he was that guy trolling me on YouTube, because there had been someone trolling Jason on YouTube recently. It had been someone who had openly admitted they were on, an alternate account, basically so that they were hiding who they really were, sort of thing. But and that's just the most ridiculous logic. Like, yeah, sure, Aesir would hide behind an alternate account all that time trolling you, and then just come right out in the open on your forums where he has posted stuff from his real account and troll you out in the open for everyone to see. Sure, makes perfect sense. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, Jason's hounding us all for activity and trolling people in the shout box about their taste in games was really pissing me off and wearing away at me, and I started to have thoughts of leaving. It was getting so bad and so aggravating. And Jason, lordy, I remember I had to get my wisdom teeth out. I had made mention of this, during, I'm going to have to go do it on this date, so, I'm not going to be around that day, probably, and, for, however long after that, I am not going to be able to do lines, I'm not going to be able to record Let's Plays, I'm probably not going to be able to, be in a group, actually talk kind of thing. And, I gave the date. It got brought up more than once, what date it was, people knew when it was going to happen. I think I even a week or two before it happened made a public post about it. And everyone knew when it was going to happen. Everyone knew the date that it was going to be. There was I could see forgetting, but I guess I don't know. I really don't think I feel like it got brought up enough for there to be no real excuse for forgetting what day it was going to be, particularly among actual group members and supposed friends, And that's the thing. I don't think Jason forgot what day it was. And Jason came after everyone for their activity hard again the day before I had to get my teeth out. And before I touch more on that, I should actually touch on something else real quick, explain a bit. Jason was hounding everyone for their activity, and the thing is, I had my reasons for not being active. I was trying as hard as I could, pretty much, to put stuff out. I just was scrapping so many recordings and was having so much trouble, I guess, with my own confidence, really. That's something that can even happen now, but it has gotten so much better now. So much better. But it was really bad then. It was really bad. And that was chiefly the reason that stuff wasn't getting put out by me much. But I was trying, damn it. I was not for lack of trying. And I explained this time and time again that I had my reasons, whatever, things would happen, things would come up, things would prevent me from recording, and though I wouldn't say it, there was also my issues with my confidence. There were just a lot of reasons. And Jason's constant coming after everyone, Jason's... here's the thing about me and LPing. I like to do it in a good mood. I'm not about freaking quantity like Jason is. I'm about quality. Sometimes I'm a little too much about quality, I'll give you that. But the thing is, when I'm going to LP, I don't like to do it just for the sake of doing it. I like to do it when I'm going to have a good time doing it, and as a result, the audience is going to have a good time watching it. Because I'm not bored out of my mind, or because I'm not angry about something, or because I'm not depressed about something. And so the thing is, I don't record under those circumstances, when I'm feeling pissed off or upset about stuff, or when I just don't feel into it, or when I'm feeling under the weather, etc., etc. I do it when I'm feeling fairly well, and I feel fairly well emotionally, and I'm feeling into the idea of doing it. That's the only time I'm gonna do it. And Jason, with all his nagging everyone for their activity, which was really starting to get old, the way and then he would troll people in the shout box, and all that shit, and I always made the mistake, when I was going to record, I always made the mistake of coming back to the forums real quick to see if anything new and important had happened or been said that I should maybe reply to as soon as possible before I go get to recording, because I'd usually sit down for like a good few hours at least when I was going to record, so I figured, I'll go check and see if anything new has happened, see if there's anything I should respond to before I get off to recording. I always made the mistake of doing that, and then I'd see something that Jason had said in the shout box, some argument he had been getting into with people over something stupid and retarded, or something he had posted in the staff area about everyone's activity, and I would just get so mad, or so upset, or frustrated, or some combination, and ended up not being able to record that day because I was no longer in the mood. So really, he was supposedly trying to get people to be more active, but really, he was having the opposite effect on me. He just contributed even more so to my not getting stuff done. And the thing is also with lines. With lines, really, I kind of took the same approach, I guess, as I did with LPing. The main difference being that I didn't have quite as much trouble with my confidence in that sense. I still had a bit of trouble, but I didn't have quite as much trouble with my confidence. But I still, usually, unless it was really crunch time, deadline time, and I really had to just bite the bullet, I liked to try and put it off until I was in a good state of mind and body to be doing it, so that the lines would be as good as they could be. So, in both terms of lines activity and LP activity, Jason was only making things worse with me. And that brings me back to, it was the day before I had to get my wisdom teeth out. And anyone in the group, anyone who would even like to consider me a friend, with how many times it had gotten brought up and how big of a thing it was, I feel like didn't have much of an excuse for forgetting, when it was going to be, when I had mentioned it so recently, and the number of times I had mentioned it, and etc. And that's the thing, I don't think Jason did forget what day it was that I was getting my teeth out. And so he chose the day before I had to freaking get my wisdom teeth removed to be an asshole. he came after everyone's activity again, hard, and he did so via MP3. He felt the need to, like, he couldn't just convey this through text anymore. He had to, talk it out. So he just kind of like told everyone to like just go give this a listen. He gave a link to the download of the MP3 on the server, and so I grabbed it, listened to it, and here's the thing. I still had Mega Man X6 to record, and it's such a short game. I actually would have had time to do the whole thing that day. People were out of the house enough, I think, that as long as I was in a good state of mind for it and didn't let my confidence get the better of me too much, I could have done it. And I was very much feeling it that day too. I think if I had gone on to do it, I would have gotten it done, but I didn't. And I also had lines to do. In the end, though, I made the same mistake I always made, checking on the forums for anything important. So I downloaded Jason's MP3, and I listened to it. And that was the most pissed off I had ever been about anything in a long time. Not only did he have to be such an asshole, he had to do it on the day right before I was getting my wisdom teeth out, and on the day when it was crunch time for me to get lines and an LP done, and he had to fucking know that it was the day before I was getting my teeth out. And the other thing about it is that, as I mentioned before, how, basically, it's far easier to get on my bad side by going after other people than it is to get on my bad side by coming after me. And the miraculous thing is that Jason actually managed to not really incur my wrath, but damn well close, get me so pissed off that I was seeing red, basically, by coming after me. To be fair, and he did it twice. He managed to do that twice. He pulled it off. Being the king of trolls that he is, he pulled it off twice. And to be fair, in both instances, he was going after everyone, basically. He was targeting the whole group. In the case of when he went after activity, he was targeting the whole group minus Thera, but counting Sation, which also pissed me off, and counting everyone, but everyone except Thera. He excused Thera; she was being active at the time. Then the other time later was after Thera and Sation had left, and then he was targeting the whole group. So both times he was going after people other than me. But the thing is, despite my usual inclination to get more mad about what he would do to other people than about what he would say to me, in those two instances, I was more mad that he was saying it about me than I was about anyone else. And that, I gotta tell you, is impressive in a bad way. But it's impressive nonetheless. It was simply not it was not the message he was conveying. It was, as a whole, but a choice of words he made. Sometimes it's like, you guys don't care. This pissed me off to magnitudes that I cannot describe. I was trying so hard all the time to get LP stuff recorded and to get it out. And I was having issues with my confidence. I was having issues with unexpected shit happening. I was having issues with just, not being able to record because this would happen. I was having issues with not being able to record because he would be an asshole and sour my mood. Having issues with not being able to, not getting anywhere because of my confidence. Having issues with unexpected shit happening in real life too, so that I couldn't record. But I was really trying really hard, and it was really upsetting me that I couldn't get stuff done. I did care. And I cared so much, in fact, that, getting your wisdom teeth out is, well, to me at least, kind of a bit of a scary thing. It was something I was always dreading for, I think, a good few years, thinking about the fact that sometime in the near future I might have to consider looking into that. And I just happened to look into it at just the right time. It was actually the perfect time to get them out. If I had done so any earlier, they would have had to cut into my gums, like, really, really go deep in there and, like, cut stuff up to be able to get them out if I had done it earlier. And if I had done it later, they would have grown in the roots, and it would have caused problems, and it would have been much more painful and it would have been bad. We basically happened to pick the perfect time to get it done. But, off topic, but, let's see, where was I going? Oh, right, I did care, I did care about the site and about activity and what have you, and I cared, and getting my wisdom teeth out was, kind of a scary thing to me. But here's the thing. I cared so much about getting this stuff done. I was going to try and record lines, and I was going to record Mega Man X6, and I was so pumped for it that I really think I could have gotten it done that day. Like, the whole game. But, I cared so much about all that stuff that getting my wisdom teeth out, the fact that I was going to have to do that tomorrow, could not have been further from my mind at all. It was the last thing I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about it at all, because my attention was so focused on all the LP stuff, and, that is how much I cared. So to have him sit there and tell me that it's like I didn't care pissed me off to magnitudes I cannot even describe. And that was it. All this crap he was pulling had been eating away at me for so long, and now it was just rising to a whole new level, and that's when I really started to have serious thoughts of getting out. Because it was really fucking with me. I was just stressed out and pissed off so freaking often, all the time, because of all this shit he was doing, and it was really hard to bear it. The only reason I think I stuck through it was not for myself. It was because I wanted to stay in the group. I wanted to still have the group. I wanted to be able to do stuff with the group, I didn't want to leave everyone else. I just wanted to leave him. But it was coming to a point that everyone else only very nearly outweighed how much I wanted to leave him. It was bad. But, so yeah, I was really pissed off that day. My mom saw that something was wrong with me, to the extent I couldn't hide it. I could not hide how pissed I was, and I ended up having to talk to her about it. And that did help me get over it a little quicker, help me feel better, I think. But, oh, I love my mom. She ended up, like, printing out a picture of his face and, like, taping it to our magnetic dartboard. I took it down right away because I was like, no, I'm not into that kind of thing. But it's amusing how much she grew to dislike him for all the crap he was pulling, and she's not a violent person by any stretch of the imagination. So it's again a testament to Jason that he could make her. And I'm not here. I'm actually referring to something else, not the dartboard thing, but something magnetic dartboard, but something else. She said to me, not sometime, like, I don't think that day. I don't think. Actually, she might have said something that day. She pretty much wanted to throttle Jason, and but like the kind of thing you feel like you want to, but you wouldn't really, even if you actually had the chance. But there is one thing that she said she wanted to do. I mean, to the point, the way she said it, I actually believe her. And again, she's not a violent person at all, by any stretch of the imagination. And but I think that when she said this, she was actually serious, that she really meant it. And she said it later, and I still think she means it too. That, I mean, like, if he had shown up that day, if he had somehow, some way, shown up that day or around that time on our doorstep, she would have answered the door, and she would have punched him hard right in the face, and then probably closed the door. But yeah, she would have punched him in the face. That's how pissed she was at him. That's that's almost how pissed I was. That's almost how pissed I was at him too. They're not quite, but yeah. It's really a testament to him how much he could piss the two of us off, because we're not freaking violent, hateful people like that. But he really. and again, though, in Mom's case too, protective mother kind of thing, messing with your kids is much worse than messing with her, kind of, But anyway, getting way off topic here. So yeah, Jason actually managed to push my button there. He did it right before I got my teeth out. Luckily, I was able to do something. I got lines done kind of late that night, later than I would have liked to get them done. I didn't get to bed as early as I would have liked, considering that I had to get up early the next day to go get my teeth out, and I was supposed to be well rested. But I made sure to get my lines done, and it ended up working out fine. I got enough rest, so it was fine. And thankfully, I managed to do something before I even went to bed, and it especially was, especially by morning, something that I am certainly not always capable of doing. I basically made all my anger and frustration over what Jason had said that day go away. And it wasn't like I bottled it up and hid it away somewhere and was letting it stew. I mean, I actually made it just go away. It was gone. I was at peace with it. And I don't know how I did that. It's something I've been able to do with some things every once in a while. It's not something I can do very often, but it was good that I was able to do it then, because I needed that. I needed restful, peaceful sleep. And that's why I was so pissed off at him too. That's why my mom was so pissed at him that he chose to do this the day before I freaking got my teeth out, which could have screwed everything up. Because you need to be relaxed, and your muscles shouldn't. If you're not relaxed and your muscles are tense, and things can go wrong with getting your teeth out. And even besides that, I don't know about you. Maybe it's a coincidence, but I swear I seem to notice with myself and people I have known that emotional misery seems to attract misfortune like a magnet. Like, if you can, just for fun, to humor me, if you want to think about this, maybe when this is over, keep this in, or you could pause the video or whatever. Keep this in mind. Try to think of this. Think of anytime or every time you have been pretty much at peace with everything. You didn't have anything really bugging you. You were fairly content and happy, maybe even on top of the world, but mainly just, if you had anything bad going on your lines at the time, it was not actually bothering you. You were totally okay, basically, with everything going on. You were content. And now, during that time, what would you say was the rate of, how often did things bad happen to you? And I really mean, anything really bad. Like you got sick, or you dropped or you suddenly started dropping things a lot when you don't normally, or you stub your toe, or got hit by a car in a more extreme case. Anything from getting sick or stubbing your toe to getting hit by a car, anything anything bad, how often did it happen to you while you were content and happy and all that? Now think about any and every time you were, upset or angry or furious or miserable about this or that going on in your life, having to do with someone maybe, probably, and now, what is the rate of bad things happening to you at that time? It seems to me like the rate is always higher when you're upset by things. Could be a coincidence, but it just always seems that way. So, yeah, and getting wisdom teeth out, not something where you want things to go wrong. So I was glad that I was able to make peace with the whole thing. I was glad that I was able to be relaxed, able to be rested, and I did have to take though I did also take a drug, but the thing is, I made myself at peace with it before I took the drug, and I think that was all the better. And yeah, the dentist had prescribed that I should take it, and I think I can see why. I think it was a good idea to take it because uh, I think it was like Valium or something. For that one day, I'm kind of glad I took it because just for that one instance, it was kind of a weird sort of thing. Like I could tell that I was sort of being forced into a state of calm, content. Maybe not content, but being perfectly calm about everything, I guess. And it was interesting. It's like nothing in the world could have made me nervous or anxious or tense up or anything. And that's really what I needed. I mean, you need to be relaxed like that when you're gonna get your teeth out, ideally, I think. And but I think it was a good thing that I made myself at peace with everything before I even took that. So yeah, got my teeth out. Everything went swimmingly. They iced my face up on the way home, like before I even, before we even got home, just like the drive home, we started icing my face. Kept icing it religiously for a number of days after that. And as a result of that, I didn't have any bruising, I didn't have any swelling, and even the pain and discomfort I did have did not last terribly long, and was not really intense or unbearable. I didn't have to take I actually didn't have to take the painkillers all that long. I think I only took it for I don't even know. All I know is that we had a lot of painkillers. All I know is that we were given a lot of painkillers, and I didn't need the majority of them. I just needed some of them for like a couple days, I think. And yeah, that all went really well. No thanks to Jason, but it all went really well. And then and then things continued. And then I was kind of, not on the internet much for a while, and as a result was much happier and more calm than I had been for a long while, not being connected to Jason and all his crap that he was pulling and shit. Then, once I was all better, life returned as usual. I was hanging around more often again, and Jason was pissing me off to no end, still pulling all the same shit, and it came to the point where, he had accused me of not caring. And finally, I really didn't fucking care anymore. I really didn't. I didn't want to LP anymore, pretty much. I mean, not like I was quitting it forever, but like I had zero desire to do anything Let's Play related. And, yeah. I lost my drive entirely and I stopped even trying at all. Because, even when I was trying, I wasn't getting anywhere because of my confidence, and Jason was being such an asshole about the whole thing, but it's kind of like, it's like, you know what? he doesn't even care that I am. He doesn't even care that I'm trying if it's not getting results, and it's like, screw it. He's gonna yell at me. I'm stressing I'm stressing myself out trying so hard to get this stuff done, and he's still gonna yell at me anyway. I might as well just not even be trying. And I just started doing things for my own enjoyment for a while. And he kept pulling the same old crap. People in the shout box, I noticed some of them started to kind of wise up to it a bit, seemingly, because they kind of started to, like, they would be talking about whatever, and then he would come and say why that game or whatever was horrible, or that game or that system was horrible, or it was stupid, or whatever. And they got smart. They didn't take the bait. They didn't try to argue with him. They just they either ignored what he was saying, or they stopped talking about the subject entirely. And then Jason still found a way, though. Another thing he did, I remember, pissing me off. That's what this whole Grooveless thing is for me. It's like, everything Jason did that pissed me off, it's like Jason's part in our group from my point of view. And I guess some of this, though, might be kind of interesting for a miss, because a few of the things I've mentioned are things that he kind of missed because he wasn't around. Because a lot of the stuff that I've talked about in the shout box, I'm like getting my wisdom teeth out, and the thing I'm about to mention too, happened when he wasn't around at the time. So, maybe that's kind of interesting for him to hear. I don't know. But anyway, another thing I remember Jason doing. He was getting, as if it wasn't enough to go after us for our activity, he was getting upset for the activity of the forums, like, the site's dying, guys, the site's dying, blah, 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 blah. And he came up with this, crackpot idea that the shout box was responsible. Like, no one was posting because everyone was just using the shoutbox instead. And, yeah. First of all, I don't see why it's a problem to use the shoutbox instead of forum posts if they really want to. Activity is fucking activity. Now, one thing I'll give him, I think around that time, Meowskovich had been hanging around a lot, and had basically been clogging up the shoutbox with his own shouts of the dude must be seriously lonely or something, because he really seemed to want someone to talk to badly. I mean, like, Brandon badly. Like, he wasn't as unintelligent and obnoxious as Brandon, not quite, but he was as lonely, I guess, because he seemed to want to talk to people so desperately. I mean, to the point that if no one would talk to him, then he would talk to himself. And I mean, not just a little bit. I mean, excessively. If no one else was really active that day, you would come back to the shout box, and pretty much every shout in the box would be from Meowskovich, having been talking about whatever stuff he was doing, I guess. But that wasn't happening every day. It wasn't like that every day. It wasn't like that all the time. And the thing that especially pissed me off when Jason brought up the whole thing like the shoutbox is responsible, is that at the time he brought this up, we had actually just recently had a night where people who hadn't been talking in a while were coming back and talking. They were using the shoutbox, and then there was a nice just the other night, people had been using the shoutbox again and talking, and there was activity, not just meows. And he acted like that hadn't happened at all, and he acted like the shoutbox was responsible for why people weren't posting. And he decided that he wanted to try an experiment. He wanted to take the shoutbox away and not tell anyone, and ask us not to tell anyone, so as not to, quote, taint the results of the experiment. And that didn't sit well with me, never sat well with me, pissed me off, but didn't speak my mind. I'll get to that. But, yeah. Ultimately, he went through with it, and we followed along. A couple people asked me about it, and I think I replied very cryptically, like, something along the lines of, I knew what was wrong, but it was going to be a little while before it was able to be fixed, or before we were able to get the shoutbox back, or I don't remember how I worded it really exactly, but it was kind of something very cryptic and very much to the effect of, I'm not actually lying to him outright. I am withholding information because, whatever, fine, I'll follow along with what Jason said so I don't get in trouble, I guess. But, but I didn't want to lie either. So I basically said something very cryptic that was basically completely true, but didn't really paint the whole picture. And, Jason was just ignoring anyone who asked about it. And that seemed to be his thing. Like, a couple of us, I remember Station 2 was like, what do we tell people? And he was just like, his thing was to just ignore everyone who asked about it. And this was all to see if people would post more with the shout box gone. And guess what? It didn't happen. There were, Jason even went so far as to make a few new threads himself to try and encourage activity, which also was kind of pissing me off. Like, oh, he didn't want to taint the results of the experiment against his favor by telling people why the shoutbox was gone, but he was perfectly for tainting it in his favor by trying to stir up activity on purpose. Because seriously, he was being more active than he ever was. Like, he created, like, several new threads on the forum, which is not something he ever typically did. I mean, about topics not about himself, and, to try and encourage activity. But, guess what? There was pretty much no activity, really, aside from... Yeah, I think Meowskovich made it. Even Meowskovich didn't post much, and there was basically very little activity. So guess what? It's not the shoutbox. Surprise, freaking prize. So he returned it. He made a thread mentioning why it had been gone. I don't remember if he explicitly apologized or not, but he might have. I don't remember. I know that I posted and I apologized because I basically, I think I might have even come out and said, maybe not in these words, but something to the extent, maybe the vague extent of, it was not my idea, but I went along with it. I didn't tell you guys what was going on. I am just as much as responsible for it as anyone. I sincerely apologize, etc., etc. And, everyone... And I think I attribute this mainly to Jason's uncanny ability to really sell things. Maybe it has to do with his first post, kind of, more than anything. But no one seemed to be upset. Everyone seemed to be understanding. You did what you thought was right, kind of thing. And, I don't feel that way. I don't think Jason was doing what he thought was right at all. If he really thought that was right, then I think he was not thinking. But anyway. So yeah, that was another stunt he pulled, and I feel like activity kind of went down even further, even in the shoutbox after that for a while. Freaking understandably. But, yeah, it just was aggravating. So then finally came, and that's about, anything after that, anything beyond that, was just same old till Jason's departure. He made a thread called Jumping Ship. Yeah, classy. CLG is sinking, get it? He titled the thread Jumping Ship, and he started it out with, like, something along the lines of, I'm seriously thinking about it, guys, and blah 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 activity blah blah blah. And to be honest, I didn't take him the least bit seriously, because as I believe Amiss went over, Jason did the whole this happens or I'm leaving thing like several times in the past. He did it when he had the thing with Quaddy, he did it when he had the thing with Amiss, and he alluded to it several times thereafter and never meant it. So when he made that thread, you'll have to forgive me for not taking him the least bit fucking seriously. Then, to my surprise, he actually did leave. And I was blown away. Like, oh my, what? Like, what? He actually meant it? Yeah, I had not been taking it the least bit seriously, and can you blame me? But, by this point, I almost could have been happy were it not for me being worried how Thera and Sation were going to react to it, because, I knew they were still friends with him, and I knew that they didn't, see him the same way I did yet. So, I was worried about how that was going to affect them. I didn't really care in the least bit that Jason was gone. I was pretty much happy in that respect, but I wasn't happy because I was afraid for how it might affect Sation and Thera. And, indeed, how that ended up going was, fine at first, and then quickly turned into Thera and Sation's departure. And, Jason, again, now he made a video a bit where he talked a whole bunch about why he left, and he tried to kind of make it into, I think, why they left too. And this was the second instance where he pissed me off. All the things he said about CLG, like, if you want activity, like, he just made this whole negative PR thing, like, oh, if you want content at all, if you actually want videos and blah blah blah, then CLG is no longer the place for you. Come over to my site, basically. I forgot to mention, Jason, when he left, he went and made his own site. And also, Jason, originally, when he left, he did so fairly peacefully. I'll give that to his credit. He left fairly peacefully. He turned over the co-op page design files to me. And he didn't take any of his stuff down. He left it up. And then a few days later, he took all his stuff down, including group stuff, even if it was not just his solo LPs. Oh, wait. Did he have his solo? No, wait. I don't think he had his solo LPs up anyway. Or did he? I don't know. Well, the point is, the main thing, anyway, is he took down all the stuff he did for the group. He took down solo LPs, and he took down things that were not rightfully wholly his. He took down Streets of Rage 2, which I had co-commentated and, well, co-op played on. And, in all honesty, I didn't really care that much for that part in particular anyway. It's like, yeah, whatever. But I remember getting pissed off because he took down Diablo 2, which was a big, massive LP that he had done with Thera. And I don't know how she took it. I just felt like that was so disrespectful to her, personally. Like, just because he feels the need to take his stuff down, because he feels unhappy with the group, and etc., he felt like he was totally in the right to take down a big, long LP that he was only halfway part of. And I just felt like that was so disrespectful. But, moving on, he took down all his videos, yeah, he made his own site. When Thera and Station left, he made the video bad-mouthing CLG and promoting his site, and, yeah, that got posted on our forums. And, that was the second time that he managed to piss me off, not only for coming after everyone, but in fact, one thing in particular, again, actually pissed me off even more because he was saying it about me than about anyone else, and it's pretty hard to do that with me. But it was basically, he was talking about the whole content thing, and he mentioned, your money's worth. And he actually really did go out and kind of make out like almost as if, we were taking advantage of people because we were accepting these donations and then not returning the favor, I guess. But I don't know. But we weren't putting out content, and it was almost like sort of like we were ripping people off kind of thing, almost. And that pissed me off so much. Again, I was seeing red so bad. I was so fucking pissed off at him, and I was so pissed that he had turned Thera and Sation against everyone, and he had gotten them to leave, and he was saying this about CLG, and he was saying that about me in CLG, and I was so fucking pissed off that beyond words that I think for a good few days I just didn't talk much to anyone. Even to the people I was most close to, I talked very little, if at all, and I was just beside myself with rage. And the thing about ripping people off prompted me to initiate this thing that I almost went through with. Pretty much what I wanted to do was pretty much just on the spot, go get the list. Fuck you. You're not going to sit here and accuse us of taking advantage of people. I just wanted to go get the list of everyone who had ever donated everything and return every penny that was not donated by me or that was not contributed by another member of our group that was currently in our group. And I didn't do that. I did suggest that we go and ask everyone who had ever donated if they felt they wanted, their money back for any reason, and it will be returned to them. I was gonna back the thing, and we almost went through with that. We got the list together. I just needed to write out basically the letter that was going to go out to everyone, and as time passed and we kind of cooled off more, we ended up not going through with that, and it would have been a little unnecessary and silly, I think, but that's how much he pissed me off. That's how much he pissed me off, and I almost went through with that. I only had needed to type up the letter and then send it out to everyone's emails, and that would have been that. But in the end, we ended up only asking a couple people. I asked Hyper, and I think, and Amiss asked Ragnats, and we never ended up asking anyone else after all, but yeah, two people we did ask didn't want their money back. Good thing, too, because Ragnats donated a lot. But, yeah. And that's pretty much the last thing Jason did until, until much later. Till we tried to get FFT back up and running together, and he pulled all his shit with that. And, yeah, Jason was totally against Thera and Sation having anything to do with CLG, and he was against the FFT thing, and he was a great big asshole about that, and he got himself kicked out of the thing. And yeah, that's pretty much that. I'll just leave that very concise because I'm not too in on that personally. That's all, not my place to speak about as much, pretty much. But yeah, that pretty much covers the last of anything I had to say about the negative shit he did. But I will offer a few more little insights real quick before I leave off. So, as you've gleaned from all this, I had problems with Jason far earlier than most of you knew, much sooner than I ever let on. And I didn't know, I wasn't the only one keeping quiet, so again, anyone else who kept quiet, I didn't know how they felt. And everyone who had a voice about it was either Jason or on Jason's side. So there was no one that I could really talk to that I knew felt the same as me, you know? So I didn't feel really safe coming forward about it. And there are a few things throughout this whole long video, holy hell, but that I mentioned like didn't speak up about it. And the reason I never spoke up about anything, in all honesty, was because I was a coward. I saw what happened to Amiss, and I was afraid that if I came out against Jason, the same thing would happen to me. Everyone would get turned against me. I would lose my friends. I would end up having to leave. So I just kept quiet about everything, and always was, if I wasn't on Jason's side so strongly that I couldn't even pretend to be the least bit, then I simply said nothing at all. I never came out against him ever because I didn't want to leave the group. I didn't want to have to leave the group. And I didn't want to lose my friends either. That's why I never spoke up about anything. And even after he left, and Thera and Sation left, I kept in contact with Thera and Sation afterwards. I think, if anything, we grew even closer after that, but I never spoke my mind to them about how I really felt about anything, because, for two reasons. I never spoke my mind about how I felt about Jason, or how I felt about CLG being in the right, really, most of the time. And I did it because I didn't want to do anything to damage our relationship as friends. I really didn't. I didn't want to lose that just because we disagreed. And also because even if we didn't lose our friendship over the whole thing, it had to make it awkward. There's no getting around that. And I didn't want that either. I knew Jason was still their friend. I knew they still trusted him. So I just kept quiet about everything because, I didn't want it to be awkward between us. I mean, it sucks to, have a friend who can't be a friend to one of your friends, if that made any sense. When you have friends, it's weird if not all of them are friends with each other, It just is kind of awkward. So I kind of didn't want that. And that's why, also, pretty much the only reason I had anything to do with Jason after he left. I never went out of my way to talk to him, but if he talked to me, I would respond. If he had accusations, I would not come out against him. I would not necessarily totally agree with him, but I would at least humor him. And, that sort of thing. And no matter how weird, no matter how awkward it was to talk to him, no matter how much I freaking hated his guts, I allowed myself to be civil to him because it just made things it just made things better and less awkward for me and Thera and Sation, I would imagine, which that was the whole reason I, had anything to do with him anymore. And finally, though, it did come to a point where it stopped being awkward to talk to Jason, because after a certain point, he stopped really, coming out against CLG. To me, at least, he stopped. And he, wasn't being an asshole. And it came to the point where I was finally sort of able to let it go. I mean, it came to a point that it didn't feel awkward talking to him anymore. And, yeah, the thing, I never knew where I stood, I guess. I didn't know just how much leverage I had as a friend, I guess, with Thera and Sation. As it turns out, it may very well be that had I spoken my mind, maybe they actually would have seen things my way, and maybe we still would have been friends, and maybe they would have seen it how I saw it if I had actually said anything. I'm not completely sure, but it very well may be the case. But I just, I didn't want to risk it, and I didn't know at the time either. By the time I did realize how close friends I was with them, and that maybe I did have that kind of leverage, by that point, I didn't care anyway, because I had gone that long, and I had gone that long not saying things, and I no longer had animosity towards Jason. I had managed to set it aside by that point. But the thing is, this whole Grooveless thing and talking about all this has been kind of therapeutic and good for me, I think, because the thing is, I realize that I never truly set it aside like I thought. It wasn't so much that I stopped hating him, because I really fucking hated his guts strong after he left and did all the shit he did, and I'm not a very hateful person. I'm not the kind of person that hates people with a passion and it doesn't let it go. So that's impressive, again. But, I didn't actually lose my hatred for him. It was more like I put a mental block on it. Like I couldn't hate him because, I didn't want to hate him for the sake of, being able to actually get along with him civilly. So it was kind of like, it wasn't that I didn't hate him anymore. It was kind of like, in some way, somewhere in my mind, I sort of prevented myself from remembering why I hated him so much. And something I noticed in all this discussion, as more facts that I never even knew came to light, and as we've talked about him and what have you, it's kind of released me from that. The block kind of went away. I actually started to really get pissed at him again. And, but then with that, it actually truly went away. I don't feel so much animosity towards him now. I don't like him. I'm not happy with him at all. But I don't hate him, like, it doesn't sear my insides to think about him. It doesn't make me feel awful every time I think about him, which is how it was when I really freaking hated him and was so pissed off at him. And cause when it's like that, he's really winning because it's just detrimental to you more than to him at that point. And in doing all this, it's been very therapeutic for me because I kind of got rid of the block on my hatred to where now it's not that I don't hate him. It's no longer that I don't hate him because I can't. It's now that I don't hate him simply because I don't. And that's the way it should be. And it's much better off for me. Still don't like him, don't really want anything to do with him, but I don't hate him at least. And I think that's really about all I have to say, and it sure took me long enough to say everything I had to say. Good lord! This is so long, it's like an hour, 1 3/4 hours, my god. But yeah, that's my Grooveless. I think that's pretty much my point of view on the whole thing, and as much as I could possibly have given it. And, thanks for listening, guys, and, thanks for being my friend. See you around.